Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to take our third look through my vintage Penguin specials. So these are the ones very tail end 50s, 1960s, and they represent a great selection of books published during that period for Penguin. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's take a look. Okay then, so it's been a couple of months since I last did a batch of Penguin specials, and I've pulled this lot out here. So this is the tail end of the 1950s run, then it jumps forward into the 1960s. They had a break for a little while, and these ones here, this one's from 1957 here. Bit of a boring old title, really. Yeah, Middle East Crisis. It was a crisis, an oil crisis at the time there, in the late 1950s, and they go up to sort of the mid 1960s, I think. So we'll have a little look. So that was special 165. This is 167. This is 168, pattern of the First World War. And it's picking up exactly where we left off last time. And amazingly, I did look at that. I did actually think that last time we would have been able to literally complete the specials this time round, but that's not actually the case. And there's enough to do a whole nother video. Plus, I'll include some of the smaller series that are sort of related to specials, but that we haven't seen before. I think that'll be easier just to slide on. And those would be ones like the Penguin Hansard, which is very, very similar to this. Maybe my French Penguins, and a few other like smaller series that we can pop on the end and include when we do the final batch of the specials here. So that should be a pretty easy fix on that one anyway. There we are, that's good news. So these 50s ones, once again, on the whole, they've got sort of the buffer covers, the matte covers, so I can't spray on them. But potentially towards the end of this video, there will be some that we'll be able to give the covers a bit of a polish to, and if we can, we will. So I have had, for the last sort of week or so, I have had a bit of a chesty cough, so I'm pretty much over it now. But I've had to leave filming this video until a little bit later, so luckily I was able to get it in before the end of the week because I was a little bit ahead of myself. If you've watched my other channel, I did mention I'm going to be training for a new role with my current employer fairly soon. I've not got the start date yet, so at the moment it's business as usual. But that may change, and temporarily I might have to drop the videos on this channel down to 2 a month, just temporarily. So this one's almost, I would say this one's almost got like a shiny cover. Not too bad. Nice title, that one. Then back to the normal. So someone said in the comments recently, they said, what would happen if I sprayed like a matte cover? So this is like a matte cover. It would almost be like spraying water onto a bit of paper, and it would just soak it up, and it would be very, very unpleasant. So I'm not going to even attempt that. Maybe I'll do it on a book that was heading to the bin anyway. So the bottom of the spine here has just come out on this one. So we're just going to slide that bit of Pritt stick in there, with the hope that it'll catch it enough to press it down. Yeah, not the best copy, but absolutely fine. This is a reissue of the Penguin on Hiroshima. Came out as a Penguin main series first of all, and then they re-released it as a special. Absolutely fantastic read, this one. If you've never read it, John Hershey's Hiroshima. It came out as a magazine article first of all in the New Yorker in the States, and then Penguin put it into book form, and it's really, really good. The Penguin edition is super common. It had a print run of 250,000, so it should be really easy to get. This is a very, very nice copy of this one by the looks of it. I'd say that's almost certainly unread. Yeah, very nice, that one. As is this. Liberal case, so stuff relating to politics, or British politics, that was topical, did tend to get published as a special from sort of the mid-50s upwards, rather than as part of the main series. And that absolutely makes sense, in all honesty. So this was the Liberal case, that's the Labour case, and the next one is the Conservative case. And each book sort of put forward the various parties' values and arguments, really. And by Roy Jenkins. And then there's the Conservative, the chairman of the, one of 3 Penguin specials stating the Conservative, Labour and Liberal points of view. So there we are. Couldn't have summed it up better myself. And it's a bit like, for a long, long time you could go into Smith's at the time of a general election and buy the party's manifesto, like what they intend to do if they were to get into power. A similar sort of thing. Why nature? Quite a thin little volume, that one. Nice there. Strategy for survival. Little illustrated cover there, Fabian. And we'll start to see more and more of this with these specials. They get more and more lavish. And some start to have photograph covers as well. Just a little sign of the times and something that they started experimenting with in the 1950s. Khrushchev's Russia. Got something dead there. Looks like that was a bug or something by the look of it. Not very nice. Yeah, very, very foxed, that one. Look at it. Really, really foxed inside. But, on the whole, it's fine. And I'm not looking for perfection with these in any way. Here's perhaps the first photograph cover, Tenants in Danger. And the Pelicans had started doing photograph covers by this time as well. And this one, even though it is the correct number 183, it was published much later in 1964. So this is a case of Penguin going back and reusing a number that hadn't been used sort of at the time. 184, brighter than 1,000 suns, referring to the atomic bomb, of course, which is on a lot of people's minds when these books were being published. That is absolutely gorgeous cover of that one for 1960. Very, very nice edition of that one. This one's a little bit worse for wear. The Hidden Persuaders. Yeah, look. It's been through the old second-hand market. This book is exchangeable at half price from P&P Book Exchange, 82 Queen's Road, Hastings. It's got an old little pencil sticker in, a pencil mark rather, which we can get out quite easily. But the bookshop stamp, that's in for life. But it's alright, it's just a little bit of history, isn't it? I don't mind bookshop stamps like that. It does sort of give the books a heritage, shall we say, I know as collectors we like the books as mint as possible and as near to how they were published as possible, but you know, it's all part of the game. And these later ones have very much been put together a bit of hopscotch, really, a bit of a mishmash of sources, and I only sort of decided to collect the later ones once I'd licked the first sort of vintage ones, really. But I'm glad I did end up collecting these, because they are really nice, like historical documents, really, in a lot of cases, of a period of time which is forgotten now. It's a nice one here, 188, Must Labour Lose. Nice sort of bright white covers on that one. Little bits of dust and dirt that have been caught inside over the years. And obviously these will benefit from a nice brush, which is something that's never happened to them, of course, so that will be very, very useful. The Stagnant Society. Quite an interesting cover. Who's that designed by? I wonder if it credit Richard Hollis. Yeah, okay. Quite an interesting cover, isn't it? Funeral Procession, of course. I remember this being one of the very first specials I ever got, the Jazz Scene S190. It's a book on the on jazz and seeing jazz being performed live. Amazing, eh? Quite an old special in my collection, this one. Must have had this for at least 30 years, I reckon. Which is probably why it's a bit rough. A couple of corners folded over. Yeah, a little bit rough, that one, but I think it's one of the harder ones to get. Congo Disaster. So again, this is right on the sort of border of the covers that we could give a brush to, or polish to rather. I think we could probably get away with that one very, very lightly, but because it has got some sort of dust on it, I think that would come up with a bit of a clean. Here's a very famous special, The Trial of Lady Chatterley. So Penguin published Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence in a popular paperback edition. Huge print run. 100,000 of the first printing. And promptly got taken to court, and notable authors and publishers of the day went up and stood on Penguin's behalf in the Crown Court and in the obscenity trial, and Penguin got justified and were allowed to keep it in print. And they promptly came back and then printed 250,000 of the second edition. But that was the trial. That was the sort of the ins and outs and the testimonies. It's a really, really interesting read. It's such a great read. They actually published it as an Alan Lane Christmas book that year in 1961. It's a good one. It's worth tracking down, that one. Now this one here has got a glossy laminated cover, so that could easily be polished. So I think what we're going to do, I'll go through all the books first, do the initial repair job on them, then I'm going to go through again and give them all a brush. Then the final stage will be, we'll go through, and the ones that can actually be polished, like this is another science one, we'll give a polish to. But I think in all honesty they are going to be a bit few and far between, the ones that we can actually get away with polishing, because most of them are not in that, or don't have those sorts of covers. But these science ones have been deliberately laminated, so they'll be okay. Now this one will be alright as well, so maybe we'll see going forward. These are, sort of early 60s ones might be a little bit more susceptible to a bit of Mr. Sheen. We shall see. I know these can be a little bit boring and a bit dry. They're not to everyone's taste, but they are part of the collection. And as you know, my mission on this channel is to clean every single book in my collection without fail. And I will eventually have done the lot. Eventually. Now that one, yes, look at that. The top is, the top's come off right there, you see, so I'm just going to pop my Pritt stick in. Just need a slither. So yeah, so even if ultimately the output on the channel drops from one a week to maybe once a fortnight, I'm definitely going to keep it going in some form. I'm not going to move it to the other channel or anything like that. I will keep it separate. And hopefully there's enough back catalogue, as it were, to keep everyone happy. There we are. I'm not sure exactly how many videos I've done on this channel now, but it must be at least 80, I would think. Maybe a bit more, I don't know. But not just one a week. It's going to take a while, isn't it, to build up a library. But it's quite funny, I go back, if I'm not sure of the condition of a book that I've got in my collection and I come across a really nice one, I think, have I got one of that, or is it on my upgrade list? If it's something I've done and I haven't made a note of it, I'll just go back and watch my own video, and it's like a catalogue of what I've got, which is quite handy. These are all quite nice, and I think these will be all absolutely fine to be polished, because look, they've got really glossy covers. In actual fact, these are really nice copies. So that was actually special number 200. There we are. I have actually got the full run of specials. There's a few late ISBN ones in the 60s, late 60s I haven't got, but those I sort of pick up when I find them. I'm not overly bothered about getting them. But all the numbered ones, I have the whole lot now, which is great. It was always a series I really loved when I started collecting Penguin. Sort of the disposable nature of them, the topicality of them, the fact that they were published very much in a short space of time, all appealed to me as a sort of a book lover, you know. This is a nice one, Madison Avenue, USA. I believe this does exist in a Sense version as well. So it's like an American version of this one as well. Mine's the British one, and I don't see a double of it, but I'm sure there is one. Where it was published by Penguin in paperback in America. There's an American special. Asia, 204 now. Asia in the Balance. Guilty Land. Oh, it's on South Africa. Yep. Looking at apartheid. Okay, so got some wear again at the top where the top of the spine has come away. So we're going to give some glue into that bit there. But once again, an easy fix. An easy fix. Here we are. Lovely. Bertrand Russell. I think this was another one I got when I was a very new Penguin collector. Many years ago. Well, I say many years ago. Was it that long ago? Well, I suppose it was. I've sort of spoken about this before, but I started collecting, well, this is a new series, Britain in the 60s, which is a great series. I started collecting Penguin when I was at school, Penguin books in general, and the school sort of library had copies of The Great Mass Experiment, and Dare the Triffids was in there. It was also around the time Dare the Triffids was on TV, the first BBC adaptation, and with John Datteen. And I remember the school library having a copy, and I read it cover to cover, and that introduced my love of John Wyndham, but also of Penguin books and science fiction. A lot of things happened at the same time. I was always into science fiction because I had always loved Doctor Who, for example, and anything sort of space related, Star Wars, Star Trek, Space 1999, anything telefantasy was right up my alley when I was growing up. But I think my introduction to Penguin was probably then. And then as sort of time went on, I just sort of started amassing a bit of a library of them. I have to say it was probably Pan books that I ended up actually sort of collecting first of all. As in, I have my mum's collection of Agatha Christie's in Pan and my dad's collection of James Bond books in Pan. And they sort of started the basis of a collection. I didn't really pay much attention to the numbers, but I did think, oh, these are really cool covers, and I'd like to sort of get all the Agatha Christie's, for example, in this format, and all the James Bond books like that. And back then you could. This is a mucky old cover, so this one will benefit from a polish. Yeah, back then you could. The books were around. You just had to sort of go out and look for them. Look at this, Purley Congregational Library. Okay, so this is an ex-library. Quite a rough odd one, so I'm going to put this on my upgrade list. So that's Special 210, The Family and Marriage, Ronald Fletcher. So that's going to go up on my upgrade list, that one. Yeah, so I started putting a run of like the Pan Agatha Christie's together, and I put the James Bond books next to them. I thought, oh, these are really, really amazing sort of jackets, and who knew back then, as a teenager, that I'd end up sort of doing this and meeting some of the artists who drew those sort of classic covers in the 90s. There's a sticker on the back there. We'll have a crack at that in a minute. But I think that sort of led to me, save the children here, that sort of led to me starting to collect the Penguin books. And then, of course, because I'd collected comics in the past, and comics are, by their very nature, numerical and they're numbered, I spotted that the Penguins were numbered as well, and I thought, oh my goodness. And it instantly got me interested. Now, the Pans were numbered, but I couldn't really figure out the numbering system on Pans. Obviously, it's easy now. In fact, it's one of the easier publishers to work out once you know what you're doing. But at the time, I didn't have a clue, and there weren't any guidebooks, and this is before the internet, so I couldn't look it up. God, this is stubborn. So I just sort of made a little list. I thought, well, I'll try and start picking up the Penguin books. Now, there was a local dealer. This is still in the early 90s, about 91, 92, I think. There was a second-hand book dealer who I used to buy books off, and I'd already bought a few Pan James Bond books off him. And I remember saying to him, do you have any old Penguins? The ones like with the numbers on. And he said, yeah, I've got some at home and I can start, looking out for you. Because he would go to literally every charity shop every day. He'd go to the book fairs. He'd travel all over the county looking for books. And there we are. And he started looking for the early ones for me. And I was buying them. And they weren't dear. Like £1 a book or something like that. And I just started building up a bit of a library. This is a great one, but it's quite a warm one. Common Sense About Smoking. Look at that cover there. A couple of young kids smoking. So that's sort of how it started, really. And then I had a little sort of dedicated bookcase where I was staying. It was only like a half. It wasn't a tall one, it wasn't as tall as me. It was like a half size one, sort of go up to your waist. So it had the 3 shelves on, And I remember vividly I had a shelf with all the pans, so the James Bonds and the Agatha Christie's. Then I had some like movie tie-in pans as well. And I had some of the James Bond movie adaptations. And I had pan horror stories. That was another thing I remember being exposed to at primary school, if you can believe it. I had a really great history teacher who would let us, he would read the occasional classic story from a pan book horror stories to us during class. And I had some of those as well. And then the next shelf down, I started getting the Penguins, and I found I was quite lucky fairly early on, and my friend got me some, and I would go out and find myself quite a few under 100, and I thought, well, I'll concentrate on the first 100 or so and see how I get on. And there used to be, at that time, there was a shop in Exeter, and it was on Exeter Quay, which is a bit like Plymouth Barbican, and it was full of little shops and, market stalls sort of affairs, and little places where several dealers could just have a cabinet with some rarities in, that sort of thing. And there was a guy up there who had, the whole shop was basically vintage Pan and Penguin. You can't believe it now, but that was all there. It wasn't massive by any means, but it was like, wow. And he had a really great, what's this? He had a really great, that's from the publisher, that's got the Dewey number, book number, issue date. I'm going to keep that in there. I think that's part of the book. Or part of the printing copy, that one. Yeah, he even had this really great Penguin sign, which I ended up buying off him years later. I used to go back, and I would go back maybe once a month, and I'd save up, and I maybe had like 20, 30 quid to blow every time I visited him. And good thing was, you could go up on a Sunday, because he was open. That was when he was busiest, Saturdays and Sundays, rather than during the week. And I ended up, and I remember a couple of real bargains I got off him, but I didn't know much better at the time, so I got a Forces Book Club edition off him, the first one I ever got, which was a £5. And I picked up a very rare Penguin, The General Goes Too Far, which is a super rare crime title. Got that for 20 quid, which is really, really good. And I got the Penguin sign off him eventually, so he had a particularly bad few days. The shop had been really quiet, and he said, look, you can have it if you like. I said, I love that Penguin sign. And he said 20 quid. So 20 quid for an old 60s shop sign. Couldn't believe my luck. I said, yeah, I'll have that one, mate. So I did very well. And then the shop shut, and he created a catalogue. But thinking back, the stuff that he must have had there, that was probably quite collectible, that I left behind, well, who can tell? I cannot for the life of me remember that guy's name, but he was a really, really good chap. He was very knowledgeable, and he was able to, he started the seeds of my collecting. And I think sometimes that's what you need, isn't it? And then obviously since then, I was on the sort of the lookout for old paperbacks, and I remember over the years I've ended up being very lucky, I think, and ending up with a few big collections of stuff, of Penguins and Pans over the years. Some real, like lifetime collections that have come my way, which have very much filled out my collection, and also having some incredibly lucky finds. It was probably, how long ago was it now? Was it 20 years? Probably was. Almost 20 years. There was a shop on Plymouth Barbican, which had just opened up, and he'd been amassing stock for years, and he put all his paperbacks out, 3 for a £5, and there were so many rare crime books, I couldn't believe it. This is not a joke, I was shaking at the books, and I pulled a load out, and thankfully I had some money on me to buy everything that I could get my hands on. And I went back about a week later and bought some more. It was absolutely incredible. One of those sort of once in a lifetime finds, and there was some rarities that I already had, and I sold them on to another book dealer. But yeah, that was pretty lucky. these haven't been too bad, but as I said, I did fill up an entire box, as I usually do. Now this one's got some writing inside. A few passages have been outlined. I can't be bothered to go through the whole book, it's just too much, but it's not a bad copy of that. This is in B format, it's just much bigger, quite heavy as well. Traffic in Towns, that's because it's illustrated. And this would have been an expensive book when it came out. Yeah, 10 and 6. Quite expensive. Great cover as well. Lots of these sorts of nuclear stroke radiation titles coming in now. It was on the Common Mind, 1964. What's wrong with Parliament? That's a bit of a worn old copy. It's got an old 30p in. I'm pleased that we've given these the spruce up, I have to say. Ultimately, they'll look so much better when they've been done. And I know that when I eventually sell my paperback collection, it's got to happen one day. We're only, all of us, temporary custodians of this stuff. If I sell it, or it gets donated, at least I know the copies are as good as I can make them. Another one here with a 20p in. I love seeing that. It means that's probably what I paid for it back in the day. So yeah, so once I sort of got the basis of my collections, I then would concentrate, and they would always be on my sort of radar whenever I went out shopping, book shopping, charity shopping, going to boot sales, jumble sales, school fetes, and I would some days get super lucky. I'm going to put that on my upgrade list. 233, The Last Confession. It's just a bit too worn compared to the others. Yeah, I just get really lucky sometimes. Other times, you know, you could come home with nothing, but that was the luck of the book collector. There's another one there that's very worn. 235, Why Liberal, also on the upgrade list. These later specials, on the whole, are quite easy to get a hold of, but you know, compared to some of the nice copies we've seen, that and that last one there, they're just letting the side down, really, aren't they? Legacy of Strife. This is another one with a very faded spine, unfortunately. So I'm going to put it on the upgrade list. So all three of the last three here are on the upgrade list. This is probably going to be a bit harder to find. Yeah, so 236, Legacy of Strife. Looks like I paid 65p for that one. So it's probably worth that. But I may have had that for 20 years, you see, and in that time, my collecting standards have gone up. So 236 Legacy of Strife is the last one we're looking at today. Now the Penguin specials go up to about 270, and I've got later ones up to about 300 and a bit, which are some of the ISBN ones. So we'll go back round now, and I'm going to give them all the brush off, and then we'll do some selective polishing. Right then, let's get brushing. A soft shoe brush. Now, some of these are going to be a bit on the rough side. Others may be absolutely fine. But they are going to be a bit of a mixture. One thing's for sure, they are all going to benefit from having the brush. So I wouldn't say there was stacks and stacks of dust coming off those, but there was a significant enough amount that I'm pleased that we're doing it. Let's put it that way. Still see the plumes of dust coming off these. As I said, some are far, far worse than others, but nothing too bad really. And I guess this is because these are 1960s books, and a lot of what we do on the channel is like even earlier than that. And some of what we've done has been 1930s, hasn't it? We're really, really ancient. So these aren't too bad as books go, shall we say. We've seen worse. Lovely. Right, that's the first half done. Second half now. Lots of quite mucky tops there. They seem to have come up okay. Okay. Last pile now. One old B format, so I'll just do this first. That was that larger B format one. Right. Okie doke. Right, that's the 4 stacks done. Next thing then, we're going to do some selective polishing. Okay then, so as I said at the start, I'm not going to be able to polish these ones because they've got like matte covers. So I'm not even going to try. But I'm just going to go through because, as we know, some of these were published slightly out of order, so we can get away with it. But I don't want to damage them. So none of these are any good for polishing. Right, I think up to there we need to be, in fact that one's going to be okay as well. So from this point onwards we can give them a careful polish, you know. So let's see, I put my Mr. Sheen on. I'm not going to spray it directly on the books, but I am going to spray it directly on my soft cloth. And something like this, which has got a few marks on, yeah, actually makes an instant improvement. Yeah. So it might be a tricky thing to actually see on film, but in the flesh here I can sort of see dirt lifting up off these with just the littlest hint of polish on my cloth here. It is making these a bit better, and that's what this is all about. And the ones that are in top condition anyway, well, they're going to be even better, aren't they? There we are, so that's the first pile. So my suspicion is that most of these going forward will be okay to have a a lightish wipe, and some more than others in actual fact, but this is not doing any damage to the books, which is what we had to avoid with those earlier ones. Mint, can't do anything with that because it's just gorge. Lovely copy of that one, really nice and bright. That really early one, I think it's made a bit of a difference, but this one was more dusty than anything. Just seemed a dusty cover. Now, that was one of those ones which had an incredibly laminated cover because of the topic, so that can be sprayed straight on. And I would imagine it'll make quite a difference, particularly to the page edges where this has picked up some dirt. Once again, this was an expensive book to buy, 6 shillings. It was a lot back then. Hardly a title that sets the world on fire today, though. Here's volume 2 of it. These definitely look better now that they've been done. But a bit of a delicate job on these. I don't want to damage the laminate any more than it already is, because as it ages it sort of tends to tighten up. But they look alright. books in this condition hardly need anything because they're absolutely beautiful copies, but some need it more than others. So I've actually got some more cleaning to do today. I got my recent pickups from the last couple of months really, and that includes my haul from a collector who has started selling on his spares and stuff that he doesn't want, his sort of second-hand book collection, but it's predominantly science fiction. Some beautiful condition paperbacks in it, really, really outstanding. Some of them were actually file copies, so some Badger books that were like straight from the publisher, which is really, really nice to have as additions to my collection. These have got nice glossy covers, so they're very, very easy to glide the old cloth over. And they don't need a lot of work. Almost no work. Some of those are absolutely beautiful copies. Lovely. Okay, so that's the first half done. Madison Avenue, the home of advertising. At least when this book was written, it was. Don't know if it still is today. Where the phrase madman comes from, as in Madison and Addison and advertising. do love these 60s editions. They are lovely. Dirty one, but it's on the upgrade list now, so that's fine. So next week I'll be back on the large format books again, which I've been really enjoying going through because a lot of them I've not seen for an awful long time. And I've not covered them at all, a lot of them, since I've been doing YouTube really, so you're seeing lots of stuff that I've not shared before. And I'm going to do sort of large format books literally every other week now. So paperbacks one week, large format the next. And that is the plan, because I've got a whole room which we've only sort of just started doing with those large format books. It's just basically what's in the office where my wife works now and again, so that's what's going to be gone through. But they've been really looking so much better on the shelf now that they've been done, and I for one am very happy with the results. So I hope you're enjoying seeing me go through them, really, So lots more of that to come. That one's actually got a tiny bit at the top of the spine coming off, so we're going to do a running repair since I want these looking as nice as possible. There we are. It was only very minor, but it got caught somehow, and it was like a little nick on it, which would have only got worse if I hadn't have addressed it. So grabbing it there while we see it is the right course of action. Now, one thing that I am going to be doing, so on my old channel, on my main channel, but a year or two ago now, I used to do, or I have done, a few like audio readings, and I wouldn't attempt it at the moment while my voice is a little bit croaky as I get over this cold. But one of the ones I did do was George Orwell's sort of short essay, really, Shooting an Elephant. Really great. And very moving piece that he wrote about when he was a policeman in Burma. Now, that's gone down very well over time, and people have liked my reading of it. I've even had school teachers leave comments on it saying, I've directed my class to your version of it and things like this. I thought, wow, you know. So what this basically means, it has sort of spurred me on to try a little bit more. So I am going to do some more George Orwell, and I'll stick to the sort of shorter pieces, the essays, things like that. And I'm tempted, rather than release them on my own channel, I'm tempted to release them on this channel as a bit of a break from the cleaning side of things, just to hear sort of the audiobooks. So I'm just floating the idea out there at the moment of a possibility of releasing short pieces of audio, classic literature which is out of copyright now, that you might enjoy listening to, and I shall just narrate it and read it. What do you think? And I am thinking more George Orwell initially, because there's a couple of his great essays that I think would be, you know, really, really worth doing, you know. So let me know. Also, people did put a few suggestions in as well, a few vintage horror stories and things which might be fun to do. So I'm up for that. When my voice is back to normal, which is not at the moment, I'm afraid. I am, sadly, while I'm doing this, I'm having to stop every 5-10 minutes. Hopefully the cuts are seamless, but I'm just having to cut to have a good cough, which is not ideal. But there you go, everyone gets ill, don't they? Now and again. So that's the end of the third stack, and I've just got just a bit over a half stack to finish off. So let's square these up into a pile, ready for their photo shoot, which is what I do at the end. I always do a little photo shoot of the books that I've done. I can make the YouTube thumbnail out of it. It's once again also a nice little record of what I've actually got. But no greater record than actually filming every single book in your collection. I mean, that is beyond it, isn't it? Let's be honest. There we are. Okay, so the last stack of Destiny for today anyway. But it's been a slightly longer than normal video, but that's fine. As I said, I pulled down a whole box, and there will be, probably in a couple of months, we'll get around to doing the very last Penguin specials. And because that is only like one row of a box, I shall top it up with some of the other books nearby, which are not exactly going to warrant their own sort of video, like maybe Penguin reference, short run series, the Penguin Hansard, that sort of thing. So ones that don't have big runs but could be included with the specials just to make up the numbers, as it were. So we've got a half decent length video, and that, as I said, will be coming down the pipe, because we've got large format books, and then next week, and then we're going to be, I believe, doing the Doctor Who books. So that will be quite exciting. I'll start the Doctor Who paperbacks. Now, I always went for really, really nice high-grade copies of Doctor Who historically, so it will be interesting to give them the once-over and see how my standards have held up. I think they're going to be pretty nice. They'll just need a bit of a, the old brush and polish again. in Tans. Quite a blemish on down the bottom there, but I think we've just about got it. As best we can, anyway. It's got a name on the front there, which is not ideal, but quite an interesting one. This one's got a cover designed by Alan Aldridge, the 60s designer, and I wonder if he's channeling Jacob's Rees-Mogg with putting his feet up on the desk. A bit political, I know, sorry about that. Well, this proved to be quite a feat doing this little lot, didn't it? More than I was expecting, but all worthwhile. That is for certain. So I'm not complaining at all, and I hope you've enjoyed looking through them today and the process and my commentary. Obviously, if you have, please hit that thumbs up button. If you've not already, please subscribe as well. It obviously helps grow the channel. Things have been looking a bit better lately, so that's good news. So whether we're over that little bit of the roller coaster with the algorithm, I don't know, but you know, do please keep doing that, and I shall look forward to be back in with you next week when we do another load of those large format books, of which I think it's going to be part 4, is it? Part 4 or 5? I think part 4 is going to be. So, yeah, that'll be coming up next Saturday. So I shall look forward to seeing you then. Bye.